Hey Flock, Mike here from Epic Duck Studios and welcome to the Epic Hobby. Today I'm going to be covering how to paint blue armor. This actually came as a request from Instagram when I was showing off some trench bases I sculpted, and the Signar model that was on the base, the blue armor, just caught someone's eye. Now unfortunately I've run out of Signar models to paint, so I'm going to be busting out this Khador shock trooper. I'll be using paints from the Army Painter Fanatic range for this, starting with Imperial Navy, then adding Crystal Blue, Bright Sapphire, and finishing up with a little bit of Magecast Magenta. To thin the paints down, I'm going to be using an acrylic medium, in this case Merlin's Magic Medium from Cuttlefish Colors. Pretty much any acrylic medium will do the job though. Now I've got the 4 colors as well as the medium all prepared on my wet palette. I'm going to be making a 5th color here though by mixing the Imperial Navy and Crystal Blue together about 50-50 and adding a little medium in to get it a little bit thinner so it's a bit translucent. I'll be using this color after the Crystal Blue goes down to help blend it back into the Imperial Navy. Next, I'm going to prepare my magenta for the last step of this painting process, but to do that I'm going to mix in a decent amount of medium and then just a little bit of the Imperial Navy. I'll be using this color to make the shadows a little bit deeper and produce a little bit of a hue shift, which just makes the armor look more interesting. So you can see as these two colors mix together, it's not even necessarily darker than the Imperial Navy, it's just a different color. Alright, all the colors I'm going to be using are ready, let's go ahead and dive in. Now the first step here is a really straightforward base coat of the armor panels I want to paint with Imperial Navy. Because I'm doing this as a demonstration and not necessarily to complete the whole model, I'm not going to paint every single armor panel here. Now it's fairly important that you have a good solid base coat for this process, so even though the Army Painter paints tend to be very opaque, there will be places here, especially on the shoulder pad, where I'm going to want to do a second coat. As a rule, I really appreciate paints that do their job in one coat instead of two, but that's just not always practical. Okay, I think for the purposes of this demo, having the chest and the left arm all complete is going to be good enough. Next I'll be adding a highlight using Crystal Blue, followed by using this mixed color to blend these two together. Now you can see as I load it up, I'm not really letting this paint into the body of the brush, I'm keeping it really kind of focused on the tip because I don't need a lot of it, I don't want it to flow too freely. Now I'm kind of thinking of this as a sunny day top-down highlight, so areas of the model that are kind of facing up are going to be getting the most highlight. However, sometimes when there's a sharp edge near the bottom of a panel, it'll get a highlight as well, simply to help it read against any details below that. With this panel near the top of the chest, roughly the top third to 1/2 of it is getting a highlight, and I will use that mixed color to blend the two together shortly. Each side of the chest also has a round embellishment that sticks out a bit, and I'm making sure the whole top half of that basically gets highlighted as well. Now this is where things get flipped a little bit because I'm actually highlighting the bottom edge of the armor, and that's to help it stand out against any details below that, including where armor plates just overlap. The bottom panel of the armor has a sharp crease in the middle, and I put a highlight on only one side so that the contrast of dark and light makes that crease a little more apparent. Now the back of the glove has some trim across the top of it, which would be casting a bit of a shadow down, so the highlight on that part is entirely focused at the bottom of the glove instead of at the top. Now there's nothing casting a shadow on the top of the elbow pad, so it can have the expected highlight near the top instead of one at the bottom. For the shoulder pad, most of the highlighting is going to be focused at that top edge because it is the most upward facing surface, but because the whole thing is kind of exposed and near the top of the model, I want to brighten up all the areas a little bit, which helps visually draw your attention to the top of the model. Now I'm going to clean things up a little bit using that thinned down mix of Imperial Navy and Crystal Blue. And I'm really just gliding this across where the Crystal Blue and Imperial Navy meet to help blend them into each other. This process of blending where you take a step forward and then half a step back and then a step forward and half a step back really can never go wrong. You can see already that the back of the glove looks a lot smoother. That transition is so much cleaner than it was before this little step. Now I want to add some really sharp edge highlights using the Bright Sapphire, that's that very bright blue, almost a white. I'm going to be using a much smaller brush for this, a 00 Phalanx Select from Game Envy. Now I've had this brush for a good long time and it's painted a lot of models, and you can see the end of it has got a little bit of a curl to it. There's actually times where that's useful, so I don't throw this brush out, even though it's not as straight and precise as it could be. Now I'm really using the highlights I already established with the crystal blue as a guideline and just keeping these really tightly focused to some edges. We're not making up any new highlights here. If it didn't get any of the mid-tone blue, it's not getting any of this either. While I'm keeping most of these highlights really thin, I'm making them a little bit thicker across this sort of flat piece in the middle of the chest because it does face almost straight up, and so it would catch more light than most of the armor would. With the little crease in the middle of the armor, I want to make sure I just build on the accent I already created and keep it on the same side of the armor. The two embellishments sticking out the side of the chest are basically cylinders, so I give them a little bit more of a highlight near the top. Now the highlights on the shoulder pad stay focused to that very top edge. I don't need to add them to the lower parts that I might have brightened up a little bit, because these are meant to just be that really sharp, crisp edge. Finally, along the glove here, most of the highlights are going to sit at that bottom edge because that is where the light kind of catches, and we have things casting shadows near the top of each panel. Now at this point I decided I wanted one more blue to kind of blend that highlight back into the mid-tone, so I'm mixing those two colors, the bright sapphire and crystal blue, with a little bit of medium, and getting a nice translucent color between the two that I can use to just smooth out some of those transitions. Now I'm not using this mixed color in too many places. I'm really looking for spots where the edge highlight got messed up a little bit or got a little too thick, or just needs to transition a little bit more smoothly into the blue below it. The edge highlight at the bottom of the glove looked a little bit too strong. It draws the eye in a little bit too much, so I'm going to blend over it with this mixed color to just push it down a little bit, have it be less prominent. Finally, I'm going to use that mix of Magecast Magenta and Imperial Navy and push the shadows just a little bit deeper and just introduce a little bit of that purple to them. The slight hue shift from blue to purple just makes the armor panels much more interesting and makes the model feel a little bit less flat. Because this doesn't affect any really large areas and I want some precision with it, I'm still using my 00 brush here. And because I've got this mixture thinned down enough, I'm really applying it like a liner. I'm letting it almost freely flow into these creases with just a little bit of brush control. With the panel on the back of the glove, I'm working it towards the top where we've got that overlaying piece of trim. That piece would eventually be casting a shadow, and this is that shadow. Because of the ornate Khador symbol in the middle of this shoulder pad, there's a lot of outlining happening here, which does generally darken the whole shoulder pad, which is another reason why I made sure to make the highlights just a little bit brighter on most of it. And there we are, that's my 4-paint approach to painting blue armor. I hope you found this tutorial easy to follow along with, and if you do, I'd love to see your work. Please feel free to share it on Discord. epicduck.com/discord will get you in, or tag me on Instagram at _epicduck. If you have any burning paint questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. While I can't answer every single question, I'm hoping to pick one each week to make a video for. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, do something epic.